Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam Priestley, and as normal we're joined by my lovely wife and co-host, Emma Priestley.
Hello.
So sorry it's been so long since our last episode. It must be, like a month or something?
Probably.
We had a bonus one, but the last one that we did, I think, was early June. And it's July now, so sorry. But we have a good excuse, and that is that we have sold all our possessions, given up the house we were renting, and hit the road. And we're currently recording this from Bangkok, and last time we were in Tunbridge Wells, so we've had a complete change of life.
Whee!
We're now just living out of a carry-on handbag? Carry-on suitcase?
Yes.
Basically a handbag.
Yes.
And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that in this episode and, readdress the whole digital nomad thing, because you might have heard we've done a previous episode on this before called The Pros and Cons of Being a Digital Nomad. And in it we talked about a previous trip we did where we spent a year and a half travelling full-time, being location independent, living anywhere, while working online. And at the end of that post, we basically said that we're going to stop and we're going to settle down for a bit, which is what we did. We rented a house, we got a car, we bought some furniture. We did basically everything that kind of 30-year-olds are meant to do. But now we've thrown off the shackles of society once again and we've hit the road. So you can hear all the pros and cons in the previous episode. But I think what we basically said was that there wasn't really one type of life wasn't really much better than the other. They both had their pros and cons.
Yeah.
And there were a few big cons for being a digital nomad, of which I think the three that are most relevant, because I want to talk about how we're planning on addressing them this trip, and also maybe how our mindset might have changed a little bit. So one of them was community. That one of the big reasons we wanted to settle down somewhere was just to get to know everyone, get to know the neighbours, be a part of the local community, contribute to that local community, do some more sort of location dependent stuff like running your supper clubs and
Gin events,
and just and being around friends basically, making
family.
Friends that last longer than a month, and family. Because travelling, it isn't that easy. Even if you do slow travelling, which is what we're doing, where you stay in places a bit longer, you're still having to make new friends every month, every time you move.
and say goodbye.
And everyone kind of knows it's a bit transient. You can't really get too close with the locals because they got their lives and they're there a long time. The travellers are often moving every couple of days. So it's kind of only other digital nomads that you end up making really good friends with and hanging out all the time. And they're just as transient as you. So it's either you moving on or them moving on all the time. And we found that quite difficult in our first year. The second thing I want to talk about was productivity. One of the big reasons for stopping was that we just couldn't get that much work done. There was just too much to do, too much sightseeing. The stress of always moving meant you always had this.
And we were quite tired, weren't we? Didn't really have the energy to sit down and do week-long worth of work.
Yeah, because it's not just about the energy that you have, like the time you have in the day. It's because there are loads of things we're doing, but even when you're not going around and doing all the touristy stuff, you still have that kind of underlying level of stress from knowing, where am I going to go next? How am I going to go to talk to the person in the supermarket if they can't understand me? How am I going to...
You speak a different language,
Speak a different language, and you're constantly thinking about how, you're going to get a flight, what you're going to do next, as well as all the touristy stuff. And I think in that post I wrote something on the lines of 20-something-year-olds aren't meant to lay on the beach all day doing nothing. They're meant to do something productive, and that's kind of what I felt. And then the last one I want to talk about was not having a base, really, not having somewhere that you can come back to and call home.
Yeah.
And I think we only really realised that was important was when we finished our first stint of that previous trip and we got back from South America and just kind of landing at our parents' house and just feeling that kind of like a weight we didn't know was there, a shed off something you're perfectly comfortable, which you don't have if you're basically moving home every week, every month. Cool. So shall we address those?
Sounds good.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts as well, because we kind of talked about this, but I don't think we've ever really gone that much into detail. So community, how are you feeling about community this time round?
Well, we haven't really joined any yet. So far, the 2 places we've been are Croatia for my friend's wedding, and then we're in Bangkok to see some uni friends. And we haven't really gone to any workspaces or done the usual activities. To be fair, in the last 2 days, we've been to church and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and yoga. But it takes more than going just one time to get a community and to make friends. So to me, it's quite early.
Yeah, and these first few stops we're moving quite quickly through.
Yeah.
And also it's been quite nice just hanging out with each other.
Well, yeah, and also moving, getting rid of all the stuff in our house was really stressful and really tiring, and we needed some downtime.
That was way more work than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I don't think either of us were ready to throw ourselves into going out every night, talking to loads of new people, making loads of effort, putting ourselves out there. It's been very much, feels like it's been like a holiday, which has been lovely and much needed. And something we definitely didn't have when we went to Buenos Aires, which is our first stop on our last trip.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's quite a different move this time. Because the house we had that we've left, we actually had loads of furniture.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was just kind of, we were all in rented serviced apartments, which had furniture already there.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of our clothes and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't have that much stuff.
We didn't have a car back then, had a car this time. So it's just been a different level of work. And also we had a 4-bedroom house this time, whereas before we were in flat shares.
Yeah.
With just one room.
Yeah.
Oh, and the amount of rubbish you accumulate over 2 years.
Yeah,
You've only been there 2 years.
Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, it's amazing. I felt such weight off my shoulders when I ended up with just like a little suitcase.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
It makes me really happy. Like, we moved hotels in Bangkok a couple of days ago. We only moved like a 10-minute walk, but it was just like, it was so easy that there was hardly anything to carry and to wheel along.
Yeah.
It's made me think like how much weight we were lifting with all that furniture and all the stuff, getting rid of the house.
Yeah. But we're back on community. So, as Emma said, we haven't yet really made much effort with community, but we do have a few plans. And one of them is that when we're going to Bali, and we're planning on spending a bit of time there, and we're going to land straight, go to the co-working space. We're already on all the sort of Facebook groups. I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu, you're going to be doing yoga. We're going to go to church as well. So we have kind of 4 or 5 different spots where we're going to hit within the first few days of being there, all of which will hopefully have its own little community that we can slot right into.
Yeah.
And particularly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, church, co-working are very easy communities they're very, very welcoming.
Yeah.
And they're quite active as well.
Yeah.
Yoga, probably not so much.
No, people don't chat at yoga.
But maybe that'll be different in Bali, where it's a bit more, everyone's doing it.
Every day, yeah.
Everyone's doing it every day. So that's the plan. But that doesn't really solve the problem of people moving all the time and our friends being back at home in England and our family being back there as well.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there is a really good answer to that. It'd probably be in a time we're gonna really miss it. The one thing I would say is that we are planning on returning every 3 months, every
which is what we did last time.
Which is what we did last time. In terms of keeping up with old friends, that is fine, because you actually end up seeing people almost as much as you would if you were living there.
Well, in your
Perhaps more
case,
so.
you definitely see them more.
I definitely see them more so because I'm very passive, so that gives me an excuse to make an effort with people.
Yeah, which is good.
And everyone knows it. They go, oh, we've got to meet up before you go off again. And then you do. Whereas when you're just kind of living perpetually...
Yeah, years go by.
Can be years sometime, yeah. But that is a problem. And I think it's this whole, the grass always feels greener on the other side.
Yeah.
When we were travelling before, by the end of it, we were quite looking forward to come home. By the end of this tenancy, we
Couldn't
were
wait to leave.
desperate to leave.
Yeah.
It's been so good. I've had such a great time. But as you say, it feels a bit like a holiday so far.
Yeah.
So let's see what it's like once we settle down. Which then brings me on to productivity. I think that I thought I would be much more productive than I was just because I'd have an office. and loads of free time during the day. But I don't
in Tunbridge Wells.
In Tunbridge Wells, yeah. Yeah, I thought travelling, don't have any time, so not doing as much work as I want to do. And then I moved to Tunbridge Wells, and instead of it being don't have enough time to do things, it's I don't have the motivation to do things, or the energy to do things. So,
and you can't blame it on the travelling.
I can't blame it on travelling. I blame it on being lazy. And so it's going to be interesting. So I've started tracking my hours.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing that while travelling. And it'll be interesting to see how my hourly rate, how many hours I get in a month, how that will be affected as we travel. Because I have a feeling that I might be more productive here. And that's not just about the hours put in, but it's about creativity. And I feel like I was getting a bit in a rut. And what I'm hoping is that just the fact that we're constantly moving, doing new things will be creative. But then also that as we join all these digital nomad communities of people doing interesting things, I'll find some creativity there. Find some ideas from other people, inspiration from other people doing awesome things.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm really hoping. Like, you've definitely got that to a certain extent from the people you've interviewed for the podcast. I think that's been really good because it's been a way of like forcing you to network with other people that have online businesses and go into like quite a deep chat about that business, which is the bit you enjoy. You don't like the small talk, but I think you're going to get a lot more of that in Bali, which is going to be good. Yeah,
I agree.
But I don't think as you kind of alluded to, I don't think your working hours are necessarily going to go up, but I think your productivity is going to go up.
Yeah.
There's definitely a finite amount of hours in a day that you can work on a normal average day.
Yeah.
Like just what I mean is just because we're going into a co-working space doesn't mean we're going to be doing 9 to 5.
We're definitely not going to be doing 9 to 5.
In that workspace, because that's just not how you work.
No, I prefer
short, sharp,
or when you're properly in the zone and then it's like a really long.
But you can't plan for that.
And sitting in front of my computer waiting for motivation to work versus knowing we've got to go out in half an hour because we're going to a street food market, therefore I've got to get this bit done, actually suits me a bit better.
So that's why we're doing a podcast right now.
Literally, we're going in 5 minutes to a street food market. I thought, let's get one in quickly. They're only half an hour. Which might be why it's a little bit rambly, but I thought, we haven't done one in so long, we need to get back into the groove. And we got new microphones, we've got these tiny little ones that you just kind of clip onto yourself. So it'll be interesting to see how the sound quality fares. To be honest, it might be another like 3 or 4 days before I get around to editing this and uploading it. But that will improve once we hit Bali. So next few days we're off to Singapore to check out the architecture and more street food.
Yes,
and then we're off to Bali to why in Bali, the veggie food and the community.
Yeah, be a bit healthier. And try and be more productive.
Cool. All right. Well, before we close off, I wanted to quickly talk about what has been harder about leaving this time and going, and what has been easier about leaving this time and going. Because it's based on 2 different stints of being a digital nomad, and I thought it'd be quite interesting for people who are listening to this and are thinking about going on their first trip. The things we found really easy was packing up our life.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, thinking back, like, at the time, I don't think we thought it was that easy because you had to basically manage your exit from your job.
Yeah.
You had to save up some money. But on the counter side to that is you were starting a whole new business, so you had no financial security at the time. So you had this idea that not only were you travelling, but you're also responsible for building a business from scratch. And
earning enough to live.
And also it was something completely strange. Like that type of travelling you'd never done before. You really like being organised, and the idea of having a one-way flight and just landing in Buenos Aires, which was our first stop last time.
Yeah, we had like 3 nights in a hostel and that was it. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas now it's the complete opposite.
Now you're so comfortable. Like when we moved here to this hotel versus where we were staying before, we just looked up the night before to see where we wanted to stay. Found a good deal. Trundled our suitcases down. Singapore was a bit different because it's so expensive there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, we want the cheapest flight in and we want the cheapest flight out. So I think that was more just being a bit smarter about the organisation side of it. Because you can just organise everything for like the next day. And the internet's pretty cool like that. You can book hotels and it'll be immediate. You don't need to give them much warning. You can book your flights without much warning.
That's kind of my memory of South America.
And in South America, we end up getting stuck in a few places where we'd look at flights for the next week and they'd all be sold out or really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And so then we end up doing like a really weird route around just because we're just getting the cheapest thing.
But that was fine.
Whereas this time we had a bit more of a plan. All right, well, we're rambling. So going was easier last time in terms of packing up. Packing up has been really hard this time, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But actually being here, like the stress, like the worry about it has been much easier because, one, we don't have to build a business as we go. We kind of got that sorted already, so it's a bit more comfortable. We've got work to be doing while we're out here. If anything, too much work. And
well, that's the difference with me. Your work is the same.
Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah,
I was pretty chilled out going, wasn't I?
Yeah, whereas I was absolutely terrified going the first time.
And I think like we've met a lot of people who have been in that situation where they're going because they want to go, not because their business allows it yet or their job allows it yet, and then they try and work out as they go, which it's so obvious and it's a bit stupid to say, but it is much easier to go when you have that financial security.
Yeah. I think the other difference this time in terms of packing, actually part of it was easier for me because I knew what to put in my bag. Whereas the first time around I had no idea what to pack and we had big suitcases.
Over the course of a year and a half, we downgraded from a huge suitcase and a carry-on to just a carry-on.
Yeah.
And it should be easier now because we're more in sunny places.
Yeah.
It means I've only got one gi for jiu-jitsu, which is a bit of a pain. Yeah, I know, like, it's just something, the grass is greener, isn't it? We just got so stir crazy being in the same place, wanting adventure. And like, don't get me wrong, we had a great time, made loads of friends, started a business, Pipe House Gin, which is a very local business. Started your supper clubs, which I think has been quite shaping for you. I think you've been very glad you've done that.
Yeah, very.
Which we couldn't really, well, we might have been able to do the gin, but it was much easier doing it in a local place.
Yeah.
Experimenting with markets and getting to know all the local bar owners and shop owners and stuff like that. So it has been great. Just change is good. And I'm sure we won't do this forever. Maybe we will.
Yeah, and it's made me realise how much I love cities.
Oh, yeah. I'm loving Bangkok.
Yeah.
Talking of which, we got some street food to go eat.
We're going to go to Chinatown.
We're going to go to Chinatown to...
Go to the night market.
To the night market. A few cocktail bars.
Can't wait.
And then hopefully tomorrow I'll edit this podcast and get it out for you. Alright, well, sorry that's been a bit of a rambling episode. I thought it was better to do something rather than nothing. Seems to be way so long. And hopefully this will kickstart us again and we'll go back to our twice a week schedule. Emma's giving me an unlikely look.
I think you're giving yourself an unlikely look.
I'm giving myself an unlikely look. Right, adios.
Bye.